It was a typical chilly autumn evening when Lisa first received the call. It came just after midnight, waking her from a deep sleep. Groggily, she answered, expecting it to be some wrong number or a prank. But there was no sound on the other end, just silence, a faint static that lingered ominously. "Hello? Who's there?" she asked, but no response came. She hung up, dismissing it as a mistake. The next night, the call came again, exactly at midnight. This time, the silence was accompanied by something else, a soft breathing, barely audible, as if someone was on the other side, listening to her every breath. Unease crept over her, but she managed to whisper, "Who is this?" Again, silence. The call lasted a few seconds longer before abruptly ending. Lisa couldn't shake the unsettling feeling the call left behind. She lay awake, staring at her phone, waiting for it to ring again. It didn't. But that was just the beginning. The calls continued for several nights, always at the same time, always the same silence and faint breathing. Lisa started to feel paranoid. Was someone watching her? How did they get her number? Her friends suggested it was probably a prank, but Lisa knew it was more than that. There was something dark and sinister about these calls. One evening, she decided to call her phone provider to trace the number, but they said the calls were coming from an untraceable source. Frustrated and scared, she changed her number, thinking it would put an end to the madness. But the next night, at the stroke of midnight, her new phone rang. Terror gripped her as she stared at the screen. The number was blocked. Lisa hesitated but then answered. This time, there was a voice, a deep, raspy whisper. "I see you." Lisa froze. "Who are you? What do you want?" The voice chuckled softly, sending chills down her spine. "I've always been here, Lisa. Watching. Waiting." "How do you know my name?" she demanded, her voice trembling. "I know everything about you. I know where you sleep. I know where you hide your spare key. I know that you're alone right now." Lisa's heart raced. She looked around her dark room, half expecting to see a figure lurking in the shadows. But she was alone. Wasn't she? "Leave me alone," she screamed and hung up, her hands shaking. She sat in the darkness, hugging her knees, too scared to move. Every creak of the floor, every rustle of the wind outside made her flinch. Hours passed before she finally drifted off to a restless sleep. The next day, Lisa decided she had to do something. She went to the police, but without evidence or a traceable number, they couldn't help. Frustrated and desperate, she started looking into paranormal explanations. What if this wasn't a person? What if it was something else? That night, she decided to confront her fear. She stayed up, waiting for the call. When midnight came, the phone rang. Lisa answered, steeling herself for whatever came next. "Why are you doing this?" she demanded. The voice was low and menacing. "Because you brought me back." "What do you mean?" 20 years ago, when you were just a child, you played with something you shouldn't have. A Ouija board. Do you remember?" Lisa's breath caught in her throat. She did remember. It was a game she played with her friends, something they laughed about afterward. But something strange happened that night. The board moved on its own, spelling out a name, Azrael. She had forgotten about it, dismissing it as childish imagination. "You summoned me, Lisa. And then you forgot." "But I didn't." Fear gripped her. "What do you want from me?" The voice was eerily calm. "To finish what we started." Suddenly, the lights in her room flickered. A cold breeze swept through the house, despite all the windows being shut. Shadows danced on the walls, twisting and contorting into grotesque shapes. Lisa backed away, her phone slipping from her hand. A shadow, darker than the others, seemed to peel away from the wall, growing taller, taking on the shape of a man. "I'm coming for you, Lisa," the voice whispered from the phone, but it seemed to echo in the room as well. Panicking, she grabbed a crucifix from her dresser and held it out in front of her. "Stay away," she screamed. The shadow figure paused, its head tilting as if amused. Then it began to dissolve, fading back into the wall. The phone went dead, and silence returned. Lisa thought it was over. But she was wrong. The next morning, she found a message scrawled on her bathroom mirror, written in some dark, sticky substance. "I'm inside." Lisa fled her home, refusing to go back. She stayed with friends, hoping the nightmare would end. But the calls followed her, always at midnight, always the same voice, whispering, taunting. One night, her friends found her room empty. The only sign she had been there was her phone, lying on the bed. The screen displayed one final message. "You can't escape. I'm always with you." Lisa was never seen again. Some say she was taken by whatever entity she had summoned years ago. Others believe she simply lost her mind and ran away, disappearing into the night. But every year, on the anniversary of her disappearance, her old phone number calls someone new at midnight. Those who answer hear the same chilling words. "I'm inside." And then, just like Lisa, they're gone.